Good evening. Uh, I'm recording this from my home after the recordings I made in my class either were malfunctioning in first period and then they were too long in the other classes. And I wanted to make sure that I was reaching students and parents that were unable to attend today. So this is coming to you from my home on tape on Monday night. I didn't want to wait because I know some folks out there may be wanting to know a little bit about what was going on in the class that they may have missed today. This will also serve as an introduction for the folks in Tuesday's class who aren't able to attend. I'd like to start off with a little bit about introducing myself. Like many of the students, I am new to Sims Middle School as well. Uh, I I first started out not in education. My first 40 years actually were spent in Memphis, where my first degree is in international business. My second degree is a master's degree in professional writing. That put me in a wonderful position to join FedEx. Memphis is the world headquarters for FedEx. So after my degrees, I was very fortunate to land a position. Had a fancy title, but what it boiled down to was I was over international publications for FedEx, and I did that for 16 years before moving to Mississippi. So now I live in George County, just right across the state line. And for the past 19 years, I have been in education. The first year that I moved down here, I was very fortunate to teach sixth graders, and I absolutely loved sixth grade. I said to myself, if I ever had that opportunity again, that's what I wanted to do. So here I am teaching again, sixth graders. It's been a little bit of a different road that I've traveled. After teaching sixth grade, I then taught eighth grade and seventh grade for the next 10 years. And I did teach honors students during almost all of those years. So I'm familiar with sixth grade. I'm familiar with teaching social studies and also teaching to and understanding the needs that advanced students do have. So I'm excited to do that. So that took me for my first 11 years in George County. Then I had 2 years at the high school teaching English. And then the last 6 years, I was very fortunate to be principal of Rocky Creek Elementary. Again, that's just right across the line, in which I was a principal over sixth graders. So I do have a history there that connects me with sixth graders. And having had a sixth grade son last year in school, I understand a little bit about sixth graders from that parent perspective as well. So I'm very happy to be here this year. But that's going to be about enough about me for now. Let's talk about history. Just a very brief thing about history. Um, I love history. It is a passion of mine. I love to travel. I've been very fortunate to travel, and I try to tie that in with my interest in history all the time. And so when I talk to students, I want to make sure that you know that I think that history is really important because when we study history, we find out about, in some degree, the things that make you think and feel and believe the way you do. It's things that have happened in our history have shaped you more than you may know. And so that's what we're going to be exploring too, is when we're exploring U.S. history, we're exploring about ourselves. We're connecting to the past, and the past is connecting to us. And of course, we're living through history as we speak. As when we're talking about coronavirus, I suspect that's going to be a very important part of your memories that you're going to share in the future with perhaps children and grandchildren and other folks. Um, Let me talk to you about a little bit about that connection that we can sometimes have with history. With just a couple of things I want to share about things I've just been very fortunate, very, very fortunate to have experienced. One time I was on a trip to Egypt and Jordan. And when I was traveling back from a place called Petra, we were going through the deserts of Jordan. And I knew that we were following in the desert, but on the side there was a mountain, not huge mountains, but large enough. And at one point we crossed over those mountains. And when we did, there was a spectacular sight. Um, and from studying, I knew that what I was looking down in the distance upon was the Dead Sea, and that those tiny little dots out in the distance were probably towns and maybe small cities. But I wasn't expecting for the driver to pull over and to then ask me where were we in terms of something that was very important. I couldn't answer, but I did find out. He let me know that because we had traveled an ancient road that had been there many centuries, that they pretty much know that where we had stopped right there was likely where Moses had been when he saw the promised land. And that made chills go up and down my arm. And I get a special feeling every time I think about that. That's what history can do. And I hope that's the kind of thing that will somehow be able to um, share and participate in, whether it's distance learning or being in the class. One other little tidbit there, bringing it back to American history, which is what we're going to be studying in our class. Last summer, went to Washington D.C. with my family, and at one point we were at the Lincoln Memorial. And when we were standing there on the steps and looking out, my son asked, "What was the writing that was next to us on the steps?" I hadn't noticed it. When I looked down, I don't remember the words, but basically it boiled down to, "This is where Dr. Martin Luther King stood as he addressed the crowds and gave his 'I Have a Dream' speech." That connects in a meaningful way to the type of history I'm talking about. That connectivity that enriches your life. And students, I hope that's what we're able to do this year. Um, I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to do an abbreviated version where I'm going to share the Schoology page that we have for our class. So I want to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to click on the share, and we should be able, is it going to do it? All right, here we go. And so you should be able to see this. And very quickly, students, on the, because you're going to get this in other classes as well, on the left-hand side beneath the Statue of Liberty, these are your basic Schoology buttons. When you click on materials, that will take you to basically our class's homepage, the information that's in the middle. The next tab down says updates. Many teachers are going to have that to kind of give you little updates from time to time. I'm not going to be doing that right off. If I decide to do that a little bit later, I'll let you know that. There's a grade book button. It doesn't have anything in it right now, but it will as we things will be graded very quickly, and you and your parents will be able to see those in the grade book. Down below, a little bit lower on attendance, you'll have attendance information. And then on the last button there on the left is a members, where I believe you'll be able to see the other members in your members' names and your class. So I'm moving very quickly here over to the right hand side. There are, it's the main thing I'm going to be looking at is look at upcoming. What you're seeing with reminders are reminders to me, but what should be seeing is upcoming, and there's certain events. So for today, you would have seen the first join our class. That was just something I put up there just so we could talk about that. And then we had a brief discussion where you could introduce yourself. I know that you weren't there, and it was an interactive thing that you unfortunately missed. If you'd like to do that, I'm going to show you very quickly when we get into the middle of the page how to do that and participate in the discussion. Even though it won't be quite the same, it'll still be nice, and it'll introduce you to how we do our discussions. Then it shows that we have a couple of assignments on Thursday. And most importantly over here, I'm going to give you plenty of notice of when our little quizzes and tests are. So the first thing you'll have is a quiz on Monday, September 14th. There's a quiz there so that you know that. Let's go ahead now and move over to what I consider to be really the main part of our social studies page. At the top always will be, beside the bulldog, is a link to the live lessons. Students will click on that during class when it's class time, and they'll immediately join a class session that I've started. Then those are, if you miss a particular class, you can go under recorded lessons and be able to see a lesson that I have filmed, as I'm doing right now, that will be posted on there. Then, as we go down the list here, there's a welcome to Mr. Thompson's sixth grade social studies class. That's a statement I'm just going to have up there for this week and next, and then that will disappear. So normally, after the first few days of meeting classes, underneath the bulldog, you will soon see that the very next thing is going to be this red classroom information and news folder. So let's go there. In this folder, if I click on Meet Your Teacher, you'll see a little quick bio that touches on some of the things that I just said. And then I was just kind of being silly there at the end. I know that the whole time I taught in George County, my name was, everyone liked to call me Mr. T. Even some of the teachers did. And so I put a picture of another more famous Mr. T there beside me. So that's in the Meet Your Teacher. The next file in this folder, red folder, is a special note to parents. And I wanted to make sure that parents knew that I definitely want to partner with them. I want to always be able to make sure that we're on the same page, working for the best interest of the students. And so I have this here. Students, if you're reading this and your parents aren't, please encourage them to look at this note that I have for them, because I really think very highly of our parents and can't imagine this class without their knowing how important I think that they are. There's a quick little class schedule, but I think you've got that. It just basically your alternating days. So today was a blue day, today being Tuesday, where classes 1, 3, and 5 met. On Tuesday, it was a gold day in which 2, 4, and 6 met, and those will alternate. In the class rules, normally I only have just a couple of class rules because I'm not sure why, but I've been very fortunate that folks in my class just don't usually have a lot of problems. But because we're in an online environment, I did want to have some that pertain to the online, since it is quite different learning environment. So I'm going to quickly read these 7. Number 1, watch what you say and how you say it when posting. I think, sometimes even when like you've been texting in the past, people can misunderstand how you what you meant because they're not there in front of you. So it's easy to misunderstand. So just be careful. Number 2, stay on topic. Whenever we're on something, don't go off on another tangent. We need to stay focused on what we're doing. Number 3, be brief. If I'm asking for 2 or 3 sentences, that's all you need to do. Number 4, I think not to type in all caps. It looks like you're yelling, even if you're not meaning it that way. And if you're typing in all caps because you think people will read it, it's actually the opposite. People don't like to read caps, so you're more inclined to not get people to read it. Saying please and thank you is important, especially when you're asking for help. Number 6, be patient and help others. And number 7, carefully review your response for content and correct spelling, capitalization, punctuation, and grammar before you post. Okay, that's enough for that. Let's move to the next folder. And that is the syllabus. Basically, a syllabus, if you've not heard that word before, basically just means there's a little bit of in-depth understanding of how the class works, how it operates. So we've got a course description that lets people know that we're really going to be working and learning about the second half of history. There's general rules. I've already gone over those. Preparation for class. When you join your next class, please understand that you need to have a binder or notebook. It's something for you to take notes in. when we do finally go back to the real classroom back in the school, I'm going to be collecting these and they'll be for a grade. So it is important that you take notes and keep up with these. That's the only thing in terms of supplies that I'm looking for at this point. Disciplinary expectations, I have those, but I'm not going to go over them too much because I'm pretty confident we're not going to have many issues there. If we do, I will follow these, but I'm not too concerned. I'm very confident. I know we've got a great group of students. Missed work, you will have that opportunity. Please look over that. Progress reports every 2 weeks, but because we're online and grading will be done very quickly, you'll get feedback on grades pretty consistently. The grading scale: A, 90 to 100; B, 80 to 89; C, 70 to 79; and D, 60 to 69. There are two types of grades we're going to have: minor assessments that are 40% of the grade, and major assessments for 60% of the grade. Okay, I would ask if there's any questions, but apparently that would be kind of silly because we're not live right now. So let's go ahead and go to the next item that we need to cover. And now that we've covered the red folder, we're now looking at this. Basically, we're looking at how we're going to operate in the structure of the class that I've set up. So let's look at them. They're done by weeks and then the days within those weeks. So for week 1, I see a Tuesday and Thursday. That's because I'm using the example of our Tuesday. The Wednesday classes on the 2nd, it's going to look the same. It's just going to say Wednesday and Friday here. Let's look and see how a class is normally set up. All right, there's a few extra items here, but for the most part, here's what you students can count on. When you need something and you want to know what we're doing that particular day, if you missed it, I'm expecting that everything you need is within that one folder. So like if you're going to use a textbook for, let's say we're going to use a textbook for 3 separate days, you'll see those textbook pages in all 3 of those class periods, those days, so that you won't have to hunt for them. So first of all, for today, I did a welcome and introduction. You'll notice it's in order, hopefully. Getting to know Schoology and SMS expectations. That's what we just completed. So on a normal day, you're going to have a bell ringer of some sort. Today, we had a bell ringer discussion. Then, because it took us a lot longer than we anticipated, I had planned to have a class that's between me and the students in the class going over the material we need to know. That's what the Let's Talk is. It's us participating in the actual content. It's a little bit different than the discussion board up here for a bell ringer. Then any day I might have some other activities in here, but they'll be in order. And then the last 2 things you can typically count on every day is I will have a textbook so that the pages that are identified there are the pages we were going over that day in the textbook in some way. It may not be that we're actually going over those pages, but we're going over the content or having activities. So it's there as support. And then the last thing every day is my intention to have a study guide for whatever test or quiz may be upcoming. That way you'll know exactly what the expectations are. And actually, what I want to do very quickly, I want to click on the study guide last. As you can see, it says from section 1 today, and then this week, we will be studying and reading section 1. These are the terms that are most important, terms and people and concepts that are most important. So these are the ones that are going to be tested on the test. There's not going to be surprises. I'm going to let you know exactly what it is that you need to know. Next week, you can see a list of the terms and people from section 2 that we will be studying and learning about. And then here's the thing that makes it unique to studying social studies in an advanced class. You're going to have a different little wrinkle that is going to help you build your writing skills. and I partnered with Miss Pate to make sure that we're on the same page. You're going to have on tests and quizzes, maybe one, maybe two types of writing prompts, and you need to be able to know exactly what my expectations are. So like on this one, there's going to be two questions where you will have to have a 5-sentence response to each one. So make sure you understand the correct format. And for guidance, it says how to write a 5-sentence minimum response, which is in the red folder. Now, you'll notice I probably didn't cover that because I wanted to read this first. So this is what you can expect on the test. These questions, like this particular test here, these are going to count 12 points each. Now, a lot of it's going to be the content, but some of it's going to be the structure to make sure I see that you're writing in the way that we expect advanced students to be writing at this level. So let's go back a step. I'm going to go back to the classroom information, and you'll notice I didn't cover these last two things here because I think we can do that a little bit later. But I do want to cover how to write a 5-sentence response so that we understand what the expectation is. All right, look at what the first sentence should be. If I ask you a question, you know your first sentence is going to be a topic sentence, which tells students what they are going to read about. In its simplest form, it takes the test question and restates it. You understand that? If I give you a question, all you have to do basically is turn that question into your own statement that answers that question. So to the question, here's an example. To the question, who are your favorite presidents and why? That's a very specific question. Listen to a good topic sentence. Of all the presidents our country has had, there are 3 who are my favorites. Now, see, when I hear that, I know what the question was, and I know exactly what I'm expected to be reading next. It's very clear. That's what your topic sentence should do. The next 3 sentences, that they should be information on those favorite presidents and why, since my question asked that. So that's what needs to be in the next 3 sentences, minimum of 3 sentences. Then you're going to have a conclusion sentence that concludes it. It basically takes the information in the topic sentence and restates it in an interesting way. You don't say the same sentence again. It often uses transition words like in conclusion, lastly, finally, in summary. In our example, here's how you might end that paragraph. In conclusion, I do not believe I will ever like any president more than I like these 3 great presidents. You hear that, how that it goes so well with your topic sentence, but without repeating the same sentence. It's going to be important that you are, if you haven't already been practicing and using this format, that you know it for your test. It won't be tricky. Okay, now we'll go back to where we were. So now you see in the week 1 folder of what we covered today, there's the study guide that we just went over with the concepts you need to know from today and from our next class period and from next week, and for the expectations of the 5-sentence paragraphs that we'll be doing. On this page, when you click on this, and we'll do it very quickly, it's the textbook. It's a chapter of the textbook. But if you'll notice that up here, I give you what pages. Now, the only little tricky part is if you're not used to downloads, is when I click this textbook here, I don't click on the PDF, I click here. And when I do, you see, follow the arrow? When I do, it'll come down here. So let's do that. Click. It just came down there. And so now I'm going to click here, and that will open the textbook. Now you'll have to scroll a little bit because if you'll recall, I said page 614 to 618. It's only 4.5 pages. It's not, if you weren't in class today, it's not too much. You can handle go ahead and taking care of this and reading it if you would please. And there's pictures too. Make sure when you're reading the captions and the little things on timelines. A lot of times that's a very important information, and they've put it up there in sidebars and charts. Those things are important. So okay, so now you see how to do that. Let's go back from the textbook to our page that was assigned reading and go back one more. And again, my intention is that if you miss a day, the textbook pages and the study guide will be there in that day, folded into that day. The Let's Talk, that's the discussion, which we didn't really get into much today. In most of the classes, we did in one. And then we had a bell ringer discussion. My discussion with you here on with this session right now is going to end with the bell ringer discussion. Let's click on it so you can see how that works. Because by now you understand how I feel about history being important because it connects you. So this one was, if you want to participate, I encourage you to. What is an interesting moment in your own history? In other words, in your own life. And so when you read that, I only ask for 2 or 3 sentences that you write. And here's where you do it. You type it in here with correct spelling and grammar and all that as well as you can. Make it something that's an important to you or a favorite that's meaningful in some way, and also make sure it's appropriate for school. I don't want you to put something out there that you feel like this was so important, but it was really something maybe you probably shouldn't have shared. Make sure you're okay with sharing whatever that moment is, and you type it in here, and on your screen you'll be able to do that and then submit it. You'll see others down below, and you can always hit a reply button, and I'd like for you, if you can, to reply to a couple. All right, that'll take us out of, for the most part, what happened in school on the first day. And as I back out of this, I again want to thank everybody for having their patience to listen to me go through all this. And I look forward to having you in class for the entire year. And parents, if you are participating in looking at this, please don't hesitate to give me a holler through an email or contact me if there's anything that I need to know or help you with, or any issues that arise. That should take care of it. I'm going to stop sharing right now. And we are almost out of here at this point. But I thank you very much for your patience, and I'm very excited about the school year. Everybody take care.